Fox News alert, Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa has just revealed something that Joe Biden, the FBI, and the Justice Department have been trying to hide for years. This allegation, if true, should lead either to the impeachment or immediate resignation of Joe Biden. Primetime was shocked when we found this out just a few hours ago, but it would back up everything that the media has been lying to you about, and if uncovered, would sink Joe Biden's presidency and candidacy immediately. We believe that Joe Biden has been blackmailed by this for years, which would explain why he acts the way he does. Ukraine has tapes of Joe Biden. Ukraine has tapes of Hunter Biden. The highly credible FBI informant says that the Burisma executive, who allegedly bribed Joe Biden $5 million to fire the prosecutor, has audio recordings of Joe and of Hunter. These audio recordings were kept as an insurance policy in case the Burisma executive got cornered. Here was Senator Grassley on the Senate floor moments ago revealing for the first time that Joe and Hunter Biden may have been captured on recordings with the Burisma executive in Ukraine. You ready? 17 different times. Grassley also reveals that Joe Biden may have gotten Hunter Biden hired at Burisma. And if you thought it couldn't get any more corrupt, it does. The FBI, when it finally released this document with these allegations to House Oversight, redacted out the part about the audio recording.
The 1023 produced to the House committees redacted reference that the foreign national who allegedly bribed Joe and Hunter Biden allegedly has audio recordings of his conversation with them. 17.
Why would the FBI redact that a Burisma executive has Joe Biden and Hunter Biden on tape? Well, they're either covering up for Joe Biden for political reasons or they're blackmailing Joe Biden. Senator Chuck Grassley continues to detail this explosive development. Listen.
The foreign national possesses 15 audio recordings of phone calls between him and Hunter Biden. The foreign national possesses 2 audio recordings of phone calls between him and then Vice President Joe Biden. These recordings were allegedly kept as a sort of insurance policy for the foreign national in case that he got into a tight spot.
These tapes, if they exist, should immediately make Kamala Harris the Democratic nominee for president. There is no way Joe Biden can continue his candidacy or presidency once these tapes are released. In addition, Grassley says Joe Biden was instrumental in getting Hunter the job at Burisma.
The 1023 also indicates that then Vice President Joe Biden may have been involved in Burisma employing Hunter Biden.
These revelations, if verified, prove Joe Biden's lied repeatedly to the American people and to the American press. Joe Biden has repeatedly stated that he has no idea what his son was doing in Ukraine. He had no idea what his son did for a living, and he never talked to his son about business, and that he never dealt directly with Burisma or fired the prosecutor investigating Burisma for $5 million. Remember, Donald Trump was impeached for zeroing in on this scandal. And we're now learning that Donald Trump may have been right the whole time, and that Joe Biden and the media and the FBI sat back and watched Donald Trump get impeached for fingering a guilty man, for putting his finger on the disgusting corruption that the Biden family was involved in when he was vice president. And isn't it amazing that years after these tapes were made, Ukraine is at war on Joe Biden's watch? And billions of dollars are pouring from our treasury into Ukraine unaccounted for. When Donald Trump's phone call with the Ukrainian president blew up, what did you hear from the left? Release the transcript. Well, now Primetime is calling on the Biden administration, the FBI, and the Department of Justice, release the tapes. Isn't it interesting that the Department of Justice leaked Donald Trump on tape talking about a document he had? But they sit on 17 tapes of Joe and Hunter wheeling and dealing with the corrupt Burisma executive in Ukraine, which has been at the center of an impeachment and at the center of American defense policy. Is the cover-up about money? Is it about power? Or is it about the war in Ukraine? Every Republican politician should be demanding during any interview release the tapes before this evidence is destroyed in a war or stuffed in a locker with a transgender shooter manifesto. I mean, at this point, the only thing keeping the Biden presidency alive is the sinister and seditious American media. Now, my mom came over the house on Sunday, and we were talking politics. I kept trying to tell her about the Biden family taking bribes from China, Ukraine. She said, "Where's the proof, Jesse?" Well, since when did she care about proof? She never asked for proof of Russian collusion. But I said, "Mom, Congress has the bank records. They held a press conference." She said, "Son, I never heard about it." I said, "Mom, all you do is read the New York Times." My mom reads the New York Times front to back every single day. She's done it for the last 10 years, maybe 20. Imagine reading the newspaper every day and not knowing what the news is. She didn't know anything about the Presidential Records Act. She didn't know about the Obama judge ruling presidents get to decide which records are personal and which aren't. She didn't know Biden had documents scattered around Chinatown and next to his Corvette with the garage door open. She never heard of the Chinese bribes, never heard of the Ukraine bribes. And there are millions and millions of people just like my mom. Now, if they just read the paper or watched the nightly news, they have no idea what's going on in the country. All they hear is that Trump's a scoundrel who's going to prison. And we have a news media that's intentionally not telling us the news. How can we have free and fair elections if voters aren't not only misinformed, they're not informed at all? Half the country has no idea how corrupt and sloppy Biden is. Never used to be like this. The media would spin stories. Now they don't even tell you the story. My mom says, "Well, why doesn't the media report any of this stuff?" I said, "Well, they do. Well, if you see it, they bury it maybe in one article on NBCnews.com. But you're not going to see it on TV. They're not going to follow up. They're not going to pursue it. Any story about Biden, they vaporize. Joe Biden's losing to Trump, so he's having him arrested. And the whole country has no idea what's going on." Put the corruption aside for a second. Hunter Biden's throwing around the N-word, and the media is not covering it. First time they never covered a white guy saying the N-word. And whatever happened to the Me Too movement? Hunter puts chicks in chokeholds, dangles money and promotions in front of them, no coverage. Me? I got something caught in my eye one time. I blinked, and they accused me of winking and flirting. Hunter's sleeping with Chinese spies. The Chinese are lining the Biden's pockets with gifts, cash, and diamonds, and Trump's being charged with espionage. Joe and Barack flew $1 billion in cash to the Iranians in the middle of the night. Trump's being accused of espionage. Trump waved one document in front of an American, and he's putting us at risk. Meanwhile, every Democrat server's getting hacked. Joe's spreading classified documents all over Chinatown. Swalwell's sleeping with spies. Feinstein's being driven by spies. So how do we combat this? Well, Republicans have developed a new strategy. Anytime a Republican's being interviewed on TV, they don't answer the question asked. They hijack the interview and tell the audience the truth. Watch.
Donald Trump has said repeatedly that he did nothing wrong. Do you believe that?
Well, here's what I believe. We live in an America where if you're the Democratic candidate for president, Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, you can set up a private server in your basement to conduct government business. And when an investigation is had about your activity, no, let me finish.
But you didn't answer the question.
That was ridiculous. Well, yeah, I'm trying to answer the question from a Republican point of view. That may not be acceptable on this show.
It's been a bad week for Uncurious George.
You've got these investigations in Delaware that are 1,000 times more serious by a sitting president who has authorized his DOJ to try to sink the candidacy of his prime opposition while that guy has unsecured documents that he stole out of a skiff dozens of years ago. So, look, you know, we're not talking about some sort of favoritism.
What are you talking about? That is a ridiculous statement.
There's this issue. Nice try. You know that there were documents that were sensitive, that were marked classified, found in a garage near a Corvette that made their way through Chinatown, through the Penn Biden Center.
I don't think you have the evidence to back up any of the charges you just made.
I mean, George Stephanopoulos acted like he'd never heard of Biden's Chinatown documents, never heard of the Corvette excuse. My mom's at least heard of some of this stuff. This guy's supposed to do news for a living. Now, Vivek Ramaswamy, who's running against Trump for the Republican nomination, basically told CNN to do their job right to their face.
With due respect, I think it is shameful that I, as a competitor to President Trump in this race, have to ask questions that the media isn't asking. The job of the political media, if it has one job, is to hold the U.S. government accountable.
Yes, we know that.
And instead, we're doing the bidding. You're seeing the media doing the bidding of the U.S. government.
No.
Ask the question. Get to the bottom of what Biden told Garland and what Garland told Jack Smith. If the same shoe fit the other foot, you would not take their word at face value. Do not take their word now. Get to the bottom of it. Let's actually restore journalism in this country. That's what's actually missing, is getting to the truth.
This is a full-on counteroffensive by Republicans.
What this truly is, Dana, is an affront to the rule of law. It's an affront to consistent application of the law. You had Secretary Clinton, who had classified material on a server. She was not president of the United States. She was Secretary Clinton. You have that happen. Nothing happens to her. When you have two people who do the same thing, and one has the standard that I've talked about, but the only one who gets indicted is the Republican. The only one who gets indicted is the one who was actually president, who did it the right way. Oh, my goodness. That is what the American people see.
Republicans are talking about what they want to talk about.
Was that a good look for the former president to have boxes in a bathroom?
I don't know. Is it a good picture to have boxes in a garage that opens up all the time? A bathroom door locks.
A bathroom door locks. They're shaming the media for being dishonest and telling their audience things the audience has never even heard before.
The former president is accused of misleading law enforcement, of a conspiracy of obstructing justice. That's a different set of facts. Are you prepared to defend him as the former president, and what other actions will the House take in the House Judiciary Committee in terms of funding?
Are you prepared to defend your network, CNN?
I'm
answering your question. You could ask me any question you want, but I'm entitled to answer the question, okay? You can't put words in my mouth, even though your network can hire Andrew McCabe, who was fired from the FBI for leaking classified documents. Did you remove him from your network? No, you continue to put him on to give judgment against President Trump. So your network hires Clapper, who literally lied to the American public, one of 51 other individuals that had briefings and used it politically to tell the American public that a laptop was Russia collusion, even though it had all this information about the Biden administration. Are you prepared to get rid of those people from your network?
We're in a new phase now, and the future of the Republic's on the line.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.